The migraine didn't knock. It kicked the damn door in. 1 minute Olivia was mid-sentence on a Zoom call about procurement metrics. The next her skull split open behind her eyes like someone had jammed a screwdriver into her optic nerves and twisted. Her mouth kept moving, autopilot corporate jargon, spilling out like gravy from a cracked tureen. She couldn't hear her own voice anymore over the high-pitched whines setting up shop behind her left ear. The fluorescent lights above her cubicle, 6 long tubes of buzzing judgment, burned hotter than usual. They always did when the migraines came. Harsh, sickly white beams that made her feel like a bug pinned under a magnifying glass. She blinked hard, her vision pixelated. Little black blotches skittered across her monitor, like cockroaches fleeing the light. Came the nausea, creeping in like a bad memory. "Excuse me," she muttered, camera off, and bolted. She didn't make it to the privacy of the break room closet this time, her usual hiding place when things got bad. Instead, she collapsed beside the printer, forehead against the cool wall, trying to remember how to breathe, while a marketing intern obliviously jammed their USB into the copier next to her head. This was her life now. A respectable job title, steady paycheck, and the constant threat of vomiting in front of the Salesforce integration team. That night, once the nausea dulled to a background throb, Olivia sat down at her kitchen table, lights dimmed, ice pack against the back of her neck. She opened her laptop and composed a careful, professional request. No drama, no pleading, just facts. Subject: formal aita accommodation request, partial remote work, medical. She explained her diagnosis. Chronic migraine disorder, formally assessed and documented. She cited her physician's recommendation, 2 days of remote work per week, minimum, to avoid the overhead lights that triggered episodes. She even attached test results, photosensitivity scores, EMG readings, along with a note on treatment compliance. She CC'd her direct manager, Mark, who had nodded supportively when she floated the idea over coffee the week before. "Sounds fair," he'd shrugged, mouth full of egg bites. "We're already hybrid. You're one of the few people who actually gets shit done." Her mouse hovered over the send button. She clicked. 3 days passed. Then came the calendar invite, subject line so sterile it felt like a scalpel. Aita request, internal review outcome. The meeting took place in conference room C, one that always smelled faintly like wet carpet and power trips. Mallory was already seated when Olivia walked in. Mallory, head of HR, thin lips, perfect bun. A reputation for fairness, the way a guillotine has a reputation for consistency. She didn't offer a greeting, just a clinical smile and a closed manila folder labeled with Olivia's last name. "Thanks for coming," she said, as if Olivia had shown up to discuss recycling bins. "Let's review the decision regarding your accommodation request." Olivia nodded, spine straight, heart racing. "While we appreciate your transparency regarding your health challenges," Mallory began, enunciating each syllable like she was reading from a teleprompter, "we must consider operational consistency and department-wide precedent. Allowing remote work exceptions on a case-by-case basis could present an equity concern." She flipped the folder closed, final as a coffin lid. "Everyone is treated the same here." The sentence landed like a slap, not loud, just sharp. Olivia opened her mouth, then closed it. "I submitted medical documentation. My doctor says this is a reasonable accommodation." "We're not disputing the medical documentation," Mallory said with a hand gesture that screamed, "I'm already bored. But we've determined that your presence is critical to team cohesion. And if we did this for you, we'd have to do it for everyone. You understand. It wasn't a question. It was a conclusion." "I don't think that's how aita law works," Olivia replied quietly. Mallory smiled. "We've reviewed everything internally. This is the decision." Olivia stared at her. The lights in the room flickered. Her temple began to throb again. She could already feel the next migraine coiling in her spine like a snake waiting for its cue. "Right," she said flatly. "Thank you." She stood, walked out. Didn't cry. Not in the hall, not in the elevator, not even in her car. But when she got home, she created a new folder on her desktop. She named it Aita Denial Mallory, and she began saving everything. The appeal wasn't dramatic. Olivia kept it neat. Tidy paragraphs, medical citations, polite language that tasted like pennies in her mouth. She resubmitted her physician's letter, this time with bolded language around reasonable accommodation and workplace triggers. She even included a new memo from her neurologist explaining that prolonged exposure to fluorescent lighting could result in disorientation, nausea, and in one case, temporary loss of speech. Mallory didn't respond for 5 business days. When she finally did, it was via a 2-sentence email, CC'd to no one. Your request has been reviewed again and stands denied. Please refer to the employee handbook for further clarification. No signature. No follow-up. Olivia forwarded it to Mark, her manager, who called her an hour later on his personal cell. I mean, this is crazy, he said, voice low like he was worried HR could hear through the phone. You've been one of our most consistent performers. She waited for the part where he said he'd back her up. But instead, look, Liv, I agree with you, but I'm not trying to make waves. No, it's a tough climate right now. Mallory's got the VP's ear. Silence sat between them like a third party on the line. So, you won't put anything in writing? Olivia asked, already knowing. Mark sighed, I'm sorry. I'm rooting for you, okay? Rooting for her. Like this was a high school debate team and not her basic right to not suffer seizures at her desk. The next day, her calendar started doing weird things. Meeting invites popped up with no warning, urgent syncs scheduled minutes in advance, often while she was already in the middle of another call. She'd come back from lunch to find invites labeled missed. Most were with Mallory, discussing alignment, engagement, or other vague nonsense that made her feel like a defective cog in a machine she helped build. Her schedule used to be manageable, predictable. Now it was a cruel improv sketch. No rhythm, no room to breathe. Olivia found herself double-booked, underinformed, and perpetually scrambling, things she'd never struggled with before. Her performance didn't slip so much as it got throttled. Quietly, deliberately. Then came the coaching email. It landed on a Thursday evening like a vulture on a windowsill. Hi, Olivia. I wanted to touch base on some recent behavioral trends. There have been concerns around your collaboration style and responsiveness during team initiatives. Please treat this as a gentle coaching moment and an opportunity for reflection. Best, Mallory, there were no examples, no timestamps, just a smear of vague corporate accusation masquerading as feedback. Olivia reread it 3 times, pulse drumming in her ears. She scrolled back through every project she'd touched in the last month. Every handoff was on time. Every client request met. She'd even picked up extra tasks when the new hire flaked out. Behavioral trends. What behavior? She replied calmly, asking for specifics and offering to schedule a time to discuss it. The next morning, she got a reply with a calendar invite. It was for that afternoon. Subject, coaching review. She clicked accept and stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered above her mouse. Something was happening. She couldn't explain it yet, not in hard facts, but it was all sliding sideways. She'd always trusted the system. Believed if you followed the steps, stayed professional, showed up, you'd be protected. But the lights were flickering more than usual now, and her inbox had started to feel like a trapdoor. She opened the aita folder on her desktop. She renamed it Mallory Pushback. Then she clicked open a blank Word document. Title, Timeline of Events. And she began to write. By the 3rd week, Olivia wasn't just responding, she was archiving. She'd built out nested folders, emails coaching, calendar discrepancies, medical documentation R2, denied accommodation chain, and a special one named Verbal Encounters, summarized, where she typed out every hallway comment, every raised eyebrow, every offhand dig Mallory lobbed her way in meetings like rotten fruit, wrapped in compliments. She even started screen recording her own screen, using free software she downloaded at 1 a.m. after another sleepless night hunched over her laptop, migraine throbbing behind her eyes like a neon exit sign with no door underneath it. Just in case something disappeared. Just in case someone couldn't find an email she knew damn well she sent. Her calendar looked like a crime scene map now. Double-booked meetings pinned in red, denied reschedule requests tagged yellow. She color-coded stress like she used to color-code project phases. Olivia had always been organized. Now she was obsessed. Vigilant. Every coaching moment was a breadcrumb, and she was building a trail out of hell. The dread didn't crash in, it leaked, slow and constant, like water from a ceiling you can't reach. It settled into her bones, into the backs of her eyes, into the space between one breath and the next. That's when Layla pulled her aside. It was a Tuesday, lunch break. Olivia had just nuked a sad veggie wrap in the break room when Layla, one of the data analysts, whispered her name. Hey, got a second? They stepped out to the patio where the smokers huddled and HR rarely wandered. Layla didn't beat around the bush. Mallory's targeting you. Olivia blinked. I know, I just can't prove intent yet. Layla exhaled, watching the parking lot like it might answer something. She did it to Jenna last year. Remember her, the web accessibility specialist? Olivia's stomach turned. Yeah, she left suddenly. Said she was moving back to Wisconsin. Layla shook her head. She didn't. She filed an aita request after surgery complications made stairs hard for her. Mallory started pulling the same shit, scheduling her in rooms on the 3rd floor, knowing she couldn't take the stairs when the elevators glitched. Then came the collaboration concerns. Coaching emails, HR meetings. 3 months later, she was offboarded. No one even said goodbye. Olivia swallowed. The wrap turned to paste in her mouth. Did she do anything about it? Don't know. She deleted her LinkedIn. But she cried in the parking garage the night she left. I saw her. They stood in silence, traffic humming in the distance. That night, Olivia didn't sleep. She added a new section to her Word doc, observed patterns, historical behavior by HR head. She typed every word Layla told her. Then she added a separate sheet to her migraine journal. She called it Trigger Events, Work-Related Only. Every day she recorded it now. Start of pain, light conditions, number of unscheduled meetings, emotional state, workload, response time, how long she'd spent clutching her temples in the bathroom stall, counting backwards from 500 while fluorescent demons danced on the ceiling. There was no justice coming. Not from the system. Not from Mallory. Not from Mark, who'd gone suspiciously quiet and started assigning her peer check-ins like she was a malfunctioning vending machine that needed a friendly tap. But Olivia had time, and she had records. She stopped hoping the company would do the right thing. She stopped waiting for someone to intervene. This wasn't going to be fixed with polite emails and per my last message diplomacy. She wasn't just documenting anymore. She was building a case. It happened on a Wednesday, right after lunch, what she now thought of as the danger hour. Olivia had just wrapped up a video call in a glass-walled conference room, the kind with no blinds and overhead lights like surgical beams. No warning this time. No slow crawl of pain behind her eyes. Just a sudden blankness, a moment of cognitive static, like a channel change in her brain. Her notes blurred, her breath hitched. The world tilted. She stood up too fast, stumbled. Somewhere in her body, her legs kept moving without input from her brain. She walked, turned down the hallway. She thought she was heading toward the breakroom closet, the usual retreat, but instead, her body took her toward the stairwell. A quiet place. Cold, no lights. That's where they found her, crumpled on the landing between floors 6 and 7, clutching her temples, one shoe missing, mumbling the name of a medication she couldn't pronounce. The security guard radioed for help. Someone paged Mallory. Someone else called Mark, who didn't answer. Char didn't call an ambulance. They called her emergency contact. Her sister picked her up and drove her home. Olivia slept 18 hours, lights off, blackout curtains drawn, ice packs slowly melting onto her pillow. When she woke, she could taste pennies again, except this time it wasn't from rage. It was from blood. She'd bitten her cheek during the episode. Thursday morning, she logged in and opened her inbox. Subject line, final written warning, attendance and conduct. She read it twice. Then a third time. Your inability to attend scheduled meetings and respond to urgent communication during work hours has disrupted collaborative efficiency. As discussed previously, this pattern is no longer sustainable. Failure to demonstrate immediate and sustained improvement will result in further disciplinary action, up to and including termination. It read like a form letter. Except her name was at the top. No mention of the migraine. No mention of the stairwell. No acknowledgement that she'd nearly collapsed under their lights while trying to meet their deadlines in their schedule-choked hell maze. She didn't respond. Instead, she called her doctor. The new recommendation came the next morning. Sterner this time. Aita language highlighted in bold. Patient's condition constitutes a chronic neurological disorder protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Reasonable accommodation, specifically 2 days of remote work per week, is essential to prevent escalation of symptoms that may result in hospitalization, cognitive impairment, or workplace injury. The doctor had even added a line about risk to others, liability. The word companies care about more than people. Olivia forwarded the updated documentation to Mallory. No greeting, no explanation. Just the facts. She attached her symptom tracker, her light sensitivity chart, her diagnosis timeline for good measure. Mallory's reply came less than 30 minutes later. Thank you for the additional documentation. This does not change our assessment. No signature, no CC, no humanity. That Friday at 3:17 p.m. she got the invite. Subject, HR offboarding, mandatory attendance by 3:45, She was sitting in another windowless room. Mallory across from her, Mark joining remotely, conveniently muted. Second HR rep, someone Olivia had never met, read from a script. Due to continued performance concerns and failure to meet role expectations, your employment will be terminated effective immediately. Your severance eligibility is contingent upon signature of the attached agreement. Please return all equipment by Monday. She didn't blink, didn't fidget. She just sat there, hands folded on the table, nausea curling behind her ribs like smoke with nowhere to go. Mallory handed her a branded folder. Inside it, the agreement, a list of COBRA options, and a card that read "Thank you for your contributions." It smelled faintly of toner and bullshit. Olivia stood, didn't shake hands, didn't speak. She walked out through the lobby where the bulbs overhead flickered like applause. She didn't cry in the parking lot. She didn't call her sister. She didn't punch the steering wheel. When she got home, she opened her laptop, navigated to her desktop. She opened the folder labeled Mallory Pushback. She created a new one next to it, all caps, named it Litigation Prep. And without pausing, without rage, without even blinking, she started uploading every single file. Sunday morning, no alarm, no meetings, no fluorescent ambush, just quiet. Olivia brewed coffee with shaking hands, not from nerves, from something new, calibration. The chaos was over. Now came the architecture. She sat at her kitchen table in sweatpants and a hoodie that still smelled like the last migraine. Her laptop hummed to life. She didn't open Instagram, didn't scroll job listings. Instead, she opened two windows side by side. On the left, her local folder, nearly 1.7 gigabytes of labeled hell. On the right, a blank draft email. The subject line she typed without hesitation. Aita violation case. Full documentation attached the recipient. Helen Rosenthal, labor law attorney. Referred by a friend. Former DOL litigator. Not cheap, not soft. She attached the PDFs like she was loading bullets into a chamber. One by one. Timeline XLSX coaching, emails PDF manager, witnesses docx, Aita request, denial chain PDF, light sensitivity, medical note R2. PDF company policy, VS reality docx, no dramatics. Just facts. The kind that choke people in courtrooms. In the body of the email, she wrote, Miss Rosenthal, I was terminated Friday following a series of retaliatory actions stemming from a formally submitted and medically supported Aita accommodation request. I've attached all relevant documentation, including internal policy violations, communication records, and medical directives. I'm seeking counsel regarding wrongful termination, Aita violations, and potential systemic compliance breaches. Sincerely, Olivia M. Hall. She hit send. Then she opened her second email draft. This one was addressed to Gabrielle Mason at Dolgov. Subject: internal complaint, Aita noncompliance case. Her cousin, federal compliance officer in the regional office. Straight-laced, sharp, allergic to favoritism, with a steel spine when it came to abuse of authority. She didn't ask him to bend the rules. She didn't have to. The body of her email was even shorter. Hey Gabe, I've been wrongfully terminated following an Aita accommodation denial. Everything's documented and organized. If it helps identify a pattern, this same HR rep has handled similar requests with disturbing consistency. All materials are attached. Let me know if this warrants internal escalation. Love, live, no emojis. No small talk, just the start of a controlled burn. An hour later, her phone buzzed. Gabrielle, got it. This is bad. I'm flagging it internally. Don't talk to anyone else about this yet. I'll handle it from here. She replied with a thumbs up, nothing else. Control settled over her like armor, not the Hollywood kind with capes and vengeance speeches. This was quiet control, tactical, surgical. She wasn't fighting, she was calculating. By sundown, Rosenthal replied, a brief message but pointed. I've reviewed your materials. You have a strong case, very strong. Let's talk Monday. Olivia shut her laptop. She didn't smile, didn't cheer. She just sat back in her chair, the sunlight crawling slowly across the floor like it was afraid to interrupt her. She felt coiled like wire under tension, like a trap that had stopped waiting and had started counting. No more asking, no more explaining. It was the quiet before the audit. 3 weeks slipped by like static under the door, quiet, low, threatening. Olivia didn't check her work email anymore. She didn't log into Slack. But sometimes in the middle of the night, she'd scroll the company's Glassdoor reviews just to see if anyone else had cracked. Most were still sanitized, filled with buzzwords like fast-paced and mission-driven. But a new one appeared, anonymous and raw. Requested accommodation for epilepsy. Denied. Manager lost my doctor's note. Quit before they could fire me. HR gaslights you until you disappear. Posted 2 days ago. Olivia screenshot it and saved it to a new folder, collateral evidence. She didn't reach out to the poster. She didn't have to. Something was moving now. She could feel it like a low-frequency hum in her chest. Rosenthal had gone silent on purpose. Let them forget you exist, she'd said. Let their guard down. The DOL moves slow until it doesn't. And it didn't. It started with an envelope, certified, delivered on a Tuesday morning to the front desk at her old office. The receptionist signed for it and passed it off to Mallory like it was just another vendor contract. It wasn't. Stamped across the top in black serif font, Department of Labor, Office of Disability Rights and Enforcement inside. A formal letter announcing a preliminary inquiry into aita compliance procedures related to recent employment actions, including but not limited to denial of accommodations, adverse performance documentation, and termination records. In short, they wanted to see receipts. Mallory read it in the break room, scoffing between bites of her dry protein bar. Oh, please, she said to no one in particular. This is standard. It'll go away. She tossed the envelope in her tote bag like it was junk mail. By noon, she told Mark it was just government busywork and told the HR team not to get distracted by paranoia. But something in her tone cracked. Olivia would have known it instantly. She'd heard that same crack the day Mallory said, "Everyone is treated the same here." Control disguised as calm, but the hairline fracture had begun. The next day, Mallory sent out a company-wide memo on compliance transparency and upholding inclusive standards. It read like she'd eaten a DEI handbook and regurgitated it onto a Word doc. Everyone ignored it, but Olivia read it 3 times slowly with a glass of wine. She was in her cousin's kitchen when the first real message came in, Gabriel's tone unusually clipped. It's in motion. Interviews pending. They're pulling Mallory's personnel files. Not just yours. Fingers twitched, hovering over her phone. For a split second, she wanted to call someone, Layla maybe, or Jenna, if she could find her, but she didn't. That part of her was gone now. The part that begged to be believed. Mallory started arriving to work earlier, leaving later. She walked faster, eyes flicking across cubicles like someone counting allies. A week after the letter, 2 mid-level managers were summoned for one-on-one follow-ups by someone from compliance. Someone with a badge, someone with a notepad, and suddenly Mallory wasn't scoffing anymore. Her smiles came slower, her posture stiffened. She stopped hosting Wednesday wins huddles, stopped making eye contact in hallways, stopped talking about Olivia altogether. But Olivia, she was watching. Quietly, patiently, not from bitterness, from anticipation. Like watching storm clouds build over the house that once locked you in. They had no idea she was still there. It started as a whisper. Then it became a calendar clog. One by one, department leads received polite but mandatory Outlook invites from a new name in the directory, Elaine T. Morneau, DOL Field Compliance Auditor. Her face never appeared on video, but her questions didn't need expressions. They came surgical, precise, like she already knew the answers and just wanted to see if anyone would lie with a smile. Mark was first. 28 minutes. Came out pale, muttering to himself like he'd just realized his airbag was filled with bees. Then came Layla. Then the new HR generalist. Then 4 people from IT. Then a blur of contractors who hadn't worked there in 2 years, suddenly name-dropped by government ID holders in khaki blazers and black cardigans. That's when the real stories started dripping out. Jenna, the accessibility specialist no one had heard from since she moved to Wisconsin, been found. Gabriel's team located her in Arizona, working freelance and very much still traumatized. She didn't just talk, she submitted her own records, screenshots, letters. A shredded severance offer Mallory once told her to take or leave by 5 p.m. Another employee, a part-time QA analyst with fibromyalgia, refused to sign the NDA Mallory pushed during their exit. She'd saved the draft, forwarded it to investigators with the subject line, "Let me know if this smells illegal," because it did. And then someone cracked the records. Mallory, rattled by the audit's sudden scope, made her fatal mistake on a Thursday afternoon. She logged in from her personal device and tried to mass delete 3 years' worth of aita request correspondence. She thought it would go unnoticed. It didn't. IT caught the flag in real time. A junior tech named Brandon once asked Olivia for help crafting a resume, watched Mallory try to drag entire subfolders into a purge script. The system flagged it as suspicious user behavior tied to protected HR content. Within 24 hours, her access permissions were frozen. The next day, Elaine Morneau asked the executive team for a full forensic log of HR database activity going back 5 years. 5. What had started as a complaint now had teeth. Mallory had gone from scoffing to swearing under her breath, snapping at interns, canceling team meetings. People noticed, and Olivia? She noticed everything. Rosenthal kept her looped in with summary briefs, nothing fancy, just bullet point updates like war reports. DOL request expanded to include FMLA denials, 2 new claimants surfaced with aita overlap, names redacted, internal counsel preparing mediation options. Each one was a nail, each one a match thrown on dry grass. And for the first time since the stairwell, Olivia didn't feel like a liability. She didn't feel small, she didn't feel broken. She felt like gravity because it wasn't just about her anymore. She wasn't an isolated incident. She was the first domino, the pin they pulled. Her calendar was quiet now, filled with yoga reminders and legal consults instead of chapter meetings. Her migraines hadn't vanished, but they'd changed. Less frantic, less like sirens, more like echoes. Sometimes she caught herself smiling at nothing, not from vengeance, from validation. The system that tried to erase her was now tripping over her footprints. And Mallory, the enforcer in beige, she was running out of places to hide. The first public crack appeared in the Q4 stakeholder update, buried deep in the boilerplate paragraphs about strategic realignment and operational reevaluation. One sentence sent a ripple through the company like a shark fin breaking the surface. Pending regulatory matters have prompted internal restructuring of compliance and HR operations. Internally, the language was less delicate. Legal sent a flagged memo to the C-suite with a subject line that didn't mince words. Urgent, aita liability exposure, preliminary estimate in excess of $7.4 M7.4 million. Number hit like a bat to the ribs. Not just because of the dollar sign, but because of the fine print underneath. This figure does not include reputational damages, recruitment impact, or additional settlements currently in negotiation. Mallory's name was mentioned 11 times. Each reference paired with phrases like egregious, patterned behavior, and exceeded discretionary authority. By Friday, her badge was disabled. She didn't walk in the front door that morning. She was escorted out the back. No memo, no goodbye email, just silence. One blurry cell phone pic leaked to Slack of her standing next to a security guard, lips tight, arms folded like she still had a say. Her LinkedIn went dark the next day. In the boardroom, the tone changed. Fast. Executives, once smug and detached, started using words like transparency and community healing. The company brought in an interim ethics consultant who looked like he hadn't blinked since 1989. Middle managers were told to prepare statements of accountability. A few jumped ship before they could be pushed. They called it a restructuring. Employees called it a reckoning. Olivia, she didn't log into anything, didn't tune in to the all-hands apology tour. She was done with that place emotionally, legally, spiritually. She did check her inbox that Tuesday morning. Subject, settlement agreement, final draft reviewed. Her attorney had handled every negotiation with surgical calm. Rosenthal never raised her voice, never fumbled a clause. Just worked her magic while Olivia spent her days in soft clothing and silence, the way a body recovers after months in survival mode. The agreement had grown over weeks of back and forth. Base compensation, wrongful termination damages, aita violation penalties, attorney fees, and a neat little clause barring the company from ever contacting her again. It was generous, more than she expected. Enough to clear her mortgage, finally dissolve her student loans, and leave something untouched, something she'd quietly earmarked for the wellness platform she'd been sketching for years in notebooks that always got buried under project briefs and deadlines. She didn't even have to attend mediation. Rosenthal signed on her behalf. Stay home, she said. Enjoy your silence. So Olivia did. She took a long walk the morning it closed. No earbuds, no news. Just her and the wind and the far-off sound of construction drilling into something that, for once, wasn't her skull. Later, with tea in hand and her cat asleep across her legs, she opened the final confirmation email. Subject, execution of settlement agreement, case closed. She stared at the screen for a long time. Not crying, not smiling, just breathing. There was still pain, still fog on some mornings, still light that made her squint. But the pressure was gone, the dread, the choking tension of not being believed, of being dissected by systems that mistake cruelty for professionalism. Now there was room for breath, for possibility, for whatever came next. It dropped like a thunderclap on a cloudless day. Monday morning, Olivia's phone buzzed before sunrise. Not her lawyer, not Gabe. It was Layla. Check the news. Page 3. She was still in bed, cat curled like a comma at her feet. The kettle hadn't even boiled yet. Olivia opened her browser with the dull expectation of another HR apology tour. What she saw made her sit upright. Federal investigation confirms systemic aita violations at Vertex Corp. $2.8 million in public penalties, announced there it was. Serif font, beneath the Department of Labor's insignia. The phrases she'd waited months to see, stacked like dominoes finally falling. A sustained pattern of discriminatory denial of workplace accommodations, retaliatory behavior from senior human resources officials, violation of Title I of the aita corrective mandates, and monitoring effective immediately. They didn't name her. But she was everywhere in it, every line, every policy bullet point, every reform now stapled to the walls of the building she once bled in. She scrolled down to the footnote. At the center of the investigation was a terminated employee whose documentation and testimony served as the foundation for the audit. Their actions revealed systemic failings with wide-reaching consequences. She closed the article, didn't screenshot it, didn't share it. She didn't need the world to know. The world already did. Mallory's name trended locally by noon. Not a tweet storm, not a cancellation. Just a photo, her HR headshot cropped next to the words "fired without severance," circulating among industry newsletters and LinkedIn whispers. Someone leaked the internal memo. Olivia didn't ask who. The comments were vicious. Even now, Olivia didn't read past the headlines. She didn't care about Mallory's fall. She'd stopped thinking about her the day she signed the settlement. That afternoon, Olivia opened her laptop, navigated to her job search folder. It had dust on it now. Inside, resume PDF, cover letter, draft docx, references, CSV. She selected all three, delete, confirm. She opened a new folder, named it Aurora Wellness LLC. Inside, she saved a pitch deck, a logo concept, a one-page roadmap of migraine-safe productivity tools. She'd spent the last 2 weeks beta testing interface colors that wouldn't trigger aura distortion. Light blues, muted earth tones, fonts soft on the eyes. The irony didn't escape her. The company that once told her to just deal with it had now paid for the foundation of the very thing that would help others not have to. As the sun fell behind the rooftops and the room took on that soft violet calm, she poured herself a drink, sparkling water, lime, 2 cubes, and sat back, silent. And then her inbox pinged. From redacted at Vertex Corp.com subject. Thank you, hey Olivia. Don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed to say it. Thank you for not going quietly, for not disappearing like they wanted you to, for proving we weren't crazy. I was scared to speak. You weren't. Because of you, they finally saw it. We're all better off because you didn't go away. Thank you. She stared at the words until they blurred. Then she closed the laptop, leaned back, and let herself feel it, not vengeance, not victory. Something simpler. Something cleaner. Peace earned at last. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.